So, with this video, I would like to try and erase a couple of misunderstandings that are very common. The first misunderstanding is the idea that surrender means that you do not do anything. That is not true. The conditioned mind has this idea that if it's not in resistance to something, and by being in resistance I mean if I don't think that this or that is wrong, if I do not think that, then I will not be doing anything. The conditioned mind is black or white. If it's not this, then it must be the exact opposite. And that is why the conditioned mind, when it's confronted with a message, with an invitation to surrender into what is, when the conditioned mind is confronted with such a message, the conditioned mind hears it as, well, when I surrender, then I just sit down and become a vegetable, and I do nothing. That is most certainly not true in the awakened state. That is actually one of the ways to wake up. That is, to see very clearly that we do not have to be in opposition to anything in order to do something. For us to be active and engaged. That is a part of the awakening, that we come to realize that right action is much, much more effective when we are not in opposition to what is. You see, the energy behind being in opposition to what is, and by being in opposition to what is, I am saying saying what is wrong. This is wrong, this is wrong, that is wrong. And the conditioned mind has this idea that it needs to be in opposition, for else it will not be motivated to do anything. That's a big misunderstanding. And when we awaken, we come to see very clearly that that is simply not true. On the contrary, we are able to see very clearly that we are not saying this and this and this are wrong. What we could say is that creates suffering. That creates pain. And mind you, we are not saying that is wrong. We're just simply saying that is creating suffering. And that could easily be something within ourselves. And we look upon it and say, ah, that creates suffering. Why is that creating suffering? Is there anything I can do so that it will no longer create any more suffering? Perhaps there is something that I have to stop doing. That is a very different way to engage. The conditioned mind is engaging from a perspective of that is wrong. And what very often happens is that then the conditioned mind wants to correct something. And in the process, it creates more suffering, more pain. So surrendering does absolutely not mean that you are not taking action. Absolutely not. But you have peace in your heart when you take action. That's one of the misunderstandings. There is another misunderstanding, and that is very closely related to the first one. And sometimes there are comments to my videos if I talk about surrendering. Then the comment is, yes, but what about those children that are not getting food somewhere on the planet Earth? What about the children in the wars? What about the wars? What about the injustice? And if you have been listening to the first part of this video, I will tell you that it is exactly the same answer that I'll be giving you. I could also say it like this. You sitting at home being angry at how the world is, how the human being is behaving, you sitting at home being angry about this does not change anything. If you are if what is happening somewhere in the world creates pain and suffering for you, then take action. Then do something practical about it. But first, fill your heart with peace, for otherwise you might not solve any problems, and you might even create more suffering. That is why the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So if you are situated somewhere on earth, and that's primarily from the news, that could be online or from television, and you are being presented with the injustice in the world. And if you can't do anything practical about it, then let go of it. Stop watching the news. There has always been injustice on planet Earth, and there will probably continue to be a lot of injustice for many, many years to come until the human being is awakening. You sitting, being depressed about it, doesn't do anything to help those that are in pain. So can you do anything practical about it? Please, by all means. By all means, that's not a good, because I do not mean by all means. Because if we do by all means, then we might end up creating more suffering. So do something about it if you can. And if you can't, then let go of it. Stop identifying with the pain. And then do something good where you are, locally. Let go of that depression. It doesn't help anybody. You sitting there feeling sorry about yourself. It doesn't help anybody. In both cases, it has to do with surrender. Surrendering to the fact that life is tough. Despite all the glamour you can find on Instagram or other social media, where just what is being considered as perfect are being shared. But even the most famous human being gets sick, gets lonely, gets depressed. But you never see that. So life is tough. Life is hard. Do not make it any harder. Life is also beautiful. Magic. When we awaken to that exact fact, and we are seeing very clearly that that is the case. And within that, there is a lot of peace, a lot of rest, a lot of love. So please, wake up, let go of those misunderstandings, and do something practical. Thank you for listening, my friend.